What's up, guys? Welcome back to Among the Fence, my YouTube channel writing music reviews. My name is Aaron, and if it's your first time seeing one of my videos, I'd like to welcome you to my channel where we just chill and talk about all the things that we love or hate. And if you have anything you want me to review, new, old album, EP, single, whatever, leave a comment below letting me know what it is, and I will make it happen for you. But for today's review, we're going to be checking out the new album, Elegy, by the band Shadow of Intent. For those of you who are unfamiliar with this band, they're a melodic death metal or deathcore band from Connecticut. They started around 2013, and Elegy is their fourth studio album. And this band is a pretty big deal for me because when I did a review on the last album, Melancholy, it's one of the only albums, actually it is technically the only album, that got a perfect 10 out of 10 score out of the past almost 300 album reviews that I've done so far. Like everything about the instrumentation, Ben Doer's vocals are just absolutely insane. He's up there in my top 3 favorite deathcore vocalists right now. Everything about the album is just fantastic. But at the same time, I went into this album not expected to be completely the same exact thing because it isn't fair. I do compare it to what came before it, but at the same time, bands change, sounds change, they try different stuff. So I've been seeing a lot of people saying that's not as good as Melancholy, and they're just trashing on it and they hate it for that reason. And I'm not about that. Elegy starts off with a song titled Farewell. It starts out with an epic buildup that goes into a really fast guitar riff, chants, and rapid drum work. Ben Doer's vocals are just as insane as ever. His guttural growls are really nice, accented with the higher screams. The song is kind of proggy in a sense, as are a lot of songs on this record. Like, for instance, the song structure, it goes chorus, bridge, breakdown, solo, first verse, bridge, and then another solo. And Ben Doer gets a lot of credit for his vocals and just how fantastic he is. If you ever hear Shadow of Intent fans, they mostly rave about Ben Doer, but honestly, the instrumentation and musicianship and songwriting, it's just as impressive. It sets the atmosphere for this entire song, this entire album, and the journey we're about to embark on. Which leads us to the second song, Saurian King, I believe that's how it's pronounced. It starts out with like a ballady kind of thing, and the drum and the guitar tone, it just all sounds so beautiful. And then the rhythm with the vocals and the synthesizer has a fantastic pace to it in the verses. But the song for me really picks up once we get into the chorus. Even though it's a little dark sounding, it's a little melancholy sounding, it still has kind of an uplifting quality to it. The breakdown is absolutely nasty, and the vocals are so low and they sound so nice played along with the keyboard. So I just realized that my microphone wasn't plugged in, but now it is. So hopefully the first couple minutes of this wasn't too unbearable for you guys. Next we have the song The Coming Fire, which comes in kind of like a death metal song. The interlude where they're chanting Hail over and over again took a little bit for it to grow on me, but the bridge that comes directly after is absolutely incredible. The music tones down and the vocals really carry the weight of the song and all the dynamics. And the chorus it just sounds so clean production-wise with the clean backing vocals and then the blast beats. And then the post-chorus is just as hard, making it just as impactful. And then the guitar solo over the blast beats and the outro, it's just so sick. And then we have the song of Fury, which I believe was one of the singles that was released for this album. It has like this epic movie vibe thing to it, like, I don't know, something out of Lord of the Rings or something like that. And the creepy vocals and the verses sound very, very demonic, maybe something like Gollum out of Lord of the Rings. And the pre-chorus is huge. It comes in with deep growls before it becomes a little bit more cheerful in the verse, and it brings back the melody from the intro. It's just really fun to hear that light melody being played over the distorted vocals. And the breakdown is heavy as balls, and it finishes off on the pre-chorus. I did a review on Intensified Genocide when it first came out a couple months ago. I believe it was the first single that was released for this album. I give it a 3.9 out of 5. It's not a bad rating, but I gotta admit this song was kind of underwhelming for me. And it's heavy as hell. It doesn't relent. The lyrics are super aggressive, and even the more chill moments, Ben Doer keeps that aggression going just in his vocals alone. I love how it's just an onslaught of brutality, but nothing really stood out to me other than the breakdowns, which are fantastic. But there's nothing really that unique about this song. Not like a Fury, which has like the epic movie vibe and the different style vocals, and it's a little bit more theatrical in that sense, which I think that Shadow of Intent does really well. But this song just as its own, it just didn't really do it. But in the context of the whole album, it definitely fits in. I like it a lot more than 3.9 out of 5 for sure. But then we go on to the next song, Life of Exile, which really shows what this band can do. Is it has kind of like a black metal influence to it. The melancholy music with the nasty snarly vocals and the verses sound great. The chorus is very fast drum work and cleans from Chris Wiseman, which also sound fantastic. The bridge really brings the energy up as the distorted vocals get super low, and then there's a fantastic guitar solo, and the breakdown is very powerful, but mostly in the vocals, where again I feel like the vocals carry a lot of the weight of this song. Where Millions Have Come to Die starts out with this war drum kind of intro thing that gets a little bit more help in the verses from the distorted vocals. The pre-chorus brings back the demonic vocals that we heard from previous song. The chorus has a really sick riff, and the lyrics are uniquely descriptive and they don't hold anything back. Phil Bozeman takes over in verse 2, and hearing the two vocalists back to back with their super low distorted vocals, Phil Bozeman is just right up there with Ben Durer. It just sounds so good, and I was really hoping that the bridge would feature both of them, even though I guess it doesn't really make too much sense because there's not a whole lot of difference between the two. I was just hoping for just something really big and epic to happen, but it still rips. And the outro continues with that kind of warpath vibe as we go into the song From Ruin We Rise. It has the same kind of epic movie kind of vibe to it as of Fury in terms of the orchestration and the synth stuff, but that's about as far as it goes. The vocals in the verse sound super evil, and they're really out in front of the mix, which adds a little bit more to the discomfort. The chorus brings back that melody, giving it a little bit more depth to the sound. It's really hard to understand what was being said in the verses just because Ben's vocals are so distorted. Even as I was reading along with it, it was really hard for me to tell where we were at in the song, at least the first time I was listening through it, and it just sounds so good. This is definitely a song you can sit back to and just let it rip. Blood in the Sands of Time has a thrashiness to it, as it should, because it features Chuck Billy from Testament. There's a bridge that separates verse 1 and verse 2. It gives you a little bit of breathing room, but honestly not really a whole lot. The guitar riff is so fast, and the song just never lets up. Chuck comes in the bridge, and he adds a lot to this song just because it's a different vocal tone than what we're used to hearing, a different vibe in his performance. And the last bridge and the outro is definitely where the song grabs you and really got my attention. Then we have the song Reconquest, which is the instrumental track on the album. It's got a guitar with some reverb, and then it gets really stompy with orchestration. It definitely adds a lot of atmosphere to the album, I think. I don't really like it as much as the dreaded Mystic Abyss off of their last album, Melancholy, which was more of like a shreddy kind of, let's see how crazy we can make this song be. And this it just serves a different purpose. It's more of a transitional piece to it. I'm not really big on instrumental stuff. I grew up listening to Steve Vai and Joe Satriani, so it's really hard for me to, I don't know, for it to pique my interest. But this sounded really good. I liked it in the sense of the album as a whole, but in terms of just like throwing it on and listening to it, this might be my least favorite track on the album just because it doesn't really feel like it goes anywhere on its own. And the transitional piece goes into the last three sections of this album. The first one being Elegy 1, Adapt, which has very clean sounding guitar, bass, and drums, and the vocals are just a little bit gritty. The guitar solo matches the melody of the vocals, which I liked a lot. I really enjoyed these last three songs so much in terms of their concept. Then we go into the next song, Elegy 2, Devise. It has a bassy intro with really cool orchestration and really great sounding rhythm in the verse. It has one of the best guitar riffs on this record, I believe. And it just keeps getting better and better as we go into verse 2 and verses 3. It just keeps evolving as it goes on. The breakdown after the solo is a very nice touch, and the chorus has like this kind of uplifting quality to it. A lot of the songs in this really do have an uplifting quality to it, even though the lyrics aren't really that uplifting. And the outro is where the song comes in really heavy and it just keeps evolving, and it's so good, and the storytelling in it again is fantastic. Devise goes straight into the third part and final track of the album, Overcome, which it's probably my favorite song on this album. It has the best guitar work so far, and it reminds me a lot of something Lorna Shore would do, especially currently with Will Ramos. It has the same kind of guitar riff, but it's a little bit more squealy. The verses tell a story to him, and the vocal changes that he's done from the other two songs fits it very well. The chorus is about the same as Devise, but it's just a little bit more, has a little bit more emotion. It's about twice as long. The second verse is accompanied by a guitar solo that's playing in the background at first, and then it evolves into a very, very just fantastic, amazing sounding guitar riff. The breakdown is intense, and it ends on a very, very low note before it hits another chorus, and has a beautiful outro to finish this entire album off. It is a fantastic closing track. Honestly, the last three songs could have been an extremely epic EP, but they fit well in this album as well. The storytelling on this album is fantastic, as are the vocals, of course. Ben Durr's growls are just as guttural as ever, and his highs are even nastier. The instrumentation on this is great, really does a good job at setting the atmosphere for this album, especially with the orchestration and the synth and the keyboard parts. The guitar solos are great as well. They seem to be focused a little bit more on the melody than they are just trying to be super shreddy, and which this band could absolutely do, and they do it well, and they show that more on Melancholy, I think. But on this album, they seem to be more focused on just really trying to keep the atmosphere as tight as possible, even kind of playing along with the vocal melody. My only issue with this album is the diversity within the songs themselves. Like I said, the orchestration is great, but it kind of becomes the same thing from song to song. The guitar riffs are fantastic as well, but there's nothing that really stood out to me. They don't change all that much, even from song to song, and just the way how they sound and the way they're written. They do change, and they are incredible though, so I'm not saying that they suck or anything like that. But nothing stood out to me really until we got to the final track, Overcome, which has one of the best guitar riffs that I've heard in deathcore in quite a long time. It just keeps it from every song sounding fresh or something new. But again, this band is fantastic at sticking to the concept, so maybe trying to have the same kind of sound in every song as their way is being focused on the concept the entire time. I don't know. None of this stuff really takes away from the enjoyment of this album all that much. There's just little issues, especially if you're going to compare it to Melancholy, which a lot of people are, and I'm trying not to do all that much. So with all that said, I got to give Elegy by Shadow of Intent a 8.8 out of 10. Yes, I didn't enjoy this album nearly as much as I did Melancholy, which is still a perfect album to me, even today, as I listen to it after hearing it 2 years later. I still enjoy it just as much as I did the first time I heard it. But in no way, shape, or form is Elegy a bad album, or is the band producing something that's not as good of quality. It's fantastic. So I want to know what you guys think. Leave a comment below letting me know what you thought of Elegy. If you haven't listened to it yet, it is kind of a long album, but just listen to some of the songs that I pointed out, especially if you're going to listen to anything. The final track, Overcome, is definitely where it's at. And if you enjoyed this review, don't forget to give it a like. Leave a comment below, also letting me know what I should review next. If you want to help support me and my channel, you just enjoy what you see here, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell icon, especially if you leave a request, because sometimes it happens where people don't leave a request, and it just makes me sad, and they end up missing out on it. And I hope you guys all have a good rest of your day or night, whenever you happen to be watching this, and I will talk to you guys next time. I was